Hey everyone. Okay, looks like we are live. So, welcome back to the stream. So, we couldn't do anything from Friday, and hope you are able to hear me. Just in case you are online, just confirm if you can hear me properly. But today, we are going to see NX Cloud in action. So, so far we are just using NX as like for our monorepo, and we spoke about few advantages of NX when we started the stream, like in the installation, the first video which you can see in the playlist. So today we will also explore NX Cloud, how NX Cloud can help us to like deliver our features faster. So to actually configure NX Cloud, you can see I'm back on main branch. So I'm not using the last branch which we created because the way NX Cloud or the way NX works is it always checks the difference between your main branch and the branch against which you have the PR. So generally, it's like whenever you work on any enterprise, like what you raise a PR which needs to be merged on your develop or main branch. So here, like our main branch is the branch where all the code will be merged. That's why I have created this one. So I'll create a new branch from main, and let's name it as feature add X cloud. And meanwhile, let's see which version of NX we have. So we have NX 16.3.2, and now NX 16.5 is also available. So it got released last week, and there are some amazing changes. One of them is, of course, the NX daemon has been rewritten in Rust, which makes caching more faster. And let's see. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's try this one. So to configure NX Cloud, what we will do is we will add few more libraries. If you remember, we already added few libraries as we moved ahead. So the last branch which we did was add forms. Well, let's see which library we have and which we don't. So we had cart category, home, product, users. What else we can add? Probably I want to add few more libraries so we can see some examples of Phoenix Cloud in action. Probably we can add orders. Yeah, we can add orders as another library. And what else? Let's add one called mm, design system, right, which will be the place where we can move the reusable components in future. So let's create two libraries. So I'll go back to my branch, which is at NX Cloud, and here let's add a new library. So we can say NX generate, and we saw like in initial few streams this NX console was breaking, but now it's more stable. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll just create a new library. So I'll just choose an Angular library, and what I will name this as orders. So this will be a library which will contain all the code related to orders. And let's see if, and I think this is singleton by default. If not, so all option. We also yeah, we added some default configuration but not on the main branch. So yeah, okay, cool. So standalone works. Yeah, great. So let's generate this library, and let's see first let's see some examples where NX is really powerful when we create multiple libraries, or when we like, distribute, or we move our code into a different library. Why? I mean, we went over all this in the first video, but just to give you a small reminder, right, why we should use libraries rather than actually moving this code into the project itself. So as we see, this library is a buildable library. We have been creating all the buildable libraries so far. And hey, Pedro, hi, how are you? Thank you for joining. So Pedro is a longtime friend. We have been knowing each other since like probably 2020 or 2019, and he's an amazing person. So he's working on a open source project called Router or Router, whatever however you pronounce it, Pedro. Sorry if I'm just killing the name, but yeah, just check out the project in case you're in. Um, if you're looking something for orchestration, Pedro, if I'm not wrong, that's the project. It's all about Router, and it's open source. So go ahead and give it a try. Cool. Hey, Pankaj, hi. So let's see. The way to see NX in action is there are two things. So first, let's go ahead and add some part of this code into our application. SIP communications. Yep. So I was close. I was close. I was close to the network, right? I mean, I said orchestration, which is just again, sorry, I'm not into the that as communication and everything. So really sorry. Great. So yeah, so we will add this component, the orders component. If you remember, whenever you create a library, you also get a new component, default component, which gets created. So we already have orders component here, and we will add this into our route. You're welcome. I mean, you have been doing amazing work. And we'll say, okay, now path, and we'll say this is orders. So we can like merge this into main and then refresh our branch. You will also see some git actions, git command in action. So I generally prefer merge. I'm not sure what you prefer, but I'll show you an example where we merge back our main branch into our latest branch. So here we want to actually have some, okay, I'm not going to use load children. If you remember, so far we have been using load component, right? So, and here this will be @org/. Interesting. I'm seeing all the old projects, but not this one. So it should be org/orders. Orders. Okay, so what's the name? So okay, so you can always see the path here. It's org/orders. I mean, it should have worked technically speaking, but you never know. And this, let's see if the component which is created is also exported. If not, I mean, we have to, and it is actually exported. So I'll just go ahead and copy this and say, hey, when I pass this route, just go ahead and load orders component. So this is it. And here you can also see we already have actually a library called home, right? So NX has a command called affected. You can actually run affected command to only run the affected code which is there, right? So let's go ahead and see what is changed. So I think nx.json is also changed for some reason. Okay, there is nothing which is changed but tsconfig. And let's run the nx affected command. You can also do it from nx console as we mentioned, but you can also go ahead and just run it from the command prompt. So let's see, we'll just do it from NX console because we have been using it. And here in under the common NX commands, just generate and run. I'm not talking about generate and run target. You can see in common NX commands, there is something called affected, and you can run affected build. So let's run affected build. So you can see affected criteria defaulted to base main. So it always, the way NX works, because NX has to, NX also checks what is changed and what needs to be built. So that's why you'll always see that, okay, it always defaults to the main branch to see how many files have been changed between the last commit which is there in the main and the latest commit where you are right now. So whatever is not built will be built again. So here you can see it says NX orders build production 15 seconds, and then it says target build for two projects. So let's see which project it is working right now. So it says, okay, Santosh workspace, this is something which is getting built. And if I'm not wrong, the other project is the orders library. And we can see it in more detail. For example, we can also run with verbose -verbose to see what is being built. Here you can see it runs and picks up NX affected target equals to build. And you can run multiple commands as well. So we'll see that as again, right? We'll see an example of how you can run multiple tasks. And let me, meanwhile, the project is being built. We can see what we mean by task. So here the tasks are build, test, lint, serve. All these are actually tasks, and affected can run multiple tasks at a time. So here now let's go back to the command which we have just executed, right? Here we can see, as I mentioned, so it should work some the main project, which is our workspace, Santosh workspace, and it should build orders. But what happened to the other library called home? If you see this, there is also an home library, but why it was not built? Because NX figured out that in this code change which I have done so far, only orders has been added and it is being referred into our main application. So the main application also needs to be rebuilt. If I make some changes into any other project, so only the project and its dependencies will be built. So remember this. This is the NX. This is where NX really shines. So it is not going to build everything, which is typically you do. In case you have an Angular CLI based project, you have to build everything which is there, and you can actually use this feature on the CI pipeline by using NX Cloud. So we'll see how we can configure NX Cloud and then see the same behavior on the CI pipeline. Because local is fine. I mean, there are build tools which can cache your builds and just replay those builds on your local whenever needed. For example, let me show you what I mean by cache, right? So I'll just go ahead and run the affected build again. Now in this case, what will happen is NX will figure out, okay, hey, I have built something in the past and looks like nothing has changed so far. So it says, I'll just give you the same copy which existed in my local cache. And here is your build. I mean, so earlier it took more time to build because the NX has to build the project. Now it says, okay, I already have this built in my cache and I'll just replay the same thing to you. So in my second build, it took me just 239 milliseconds. That's it. Now, let's say if I make some changes to home component, right, or home library which we have. So here I don't have anything. And let's see, somehow I'll just add export const, just a temporary variable. And let's rebuild the, let's run the affected again. So because I just made changes to the home library also. So hope it should not, I mean, it will throw me an error, looks like, because I cannot see this lib home module, which should, so you can see these two are actually taken from the cache, and it is now just building the home library because I made the change to home library, not to these two projects. So, and home library is actually not being used into my application, so it is not impacting it in any other way. So if I remove this, I mean, of course I got this error because I have this line, but if I remove this and let's build it again, affected, build, target. So let's say if you are working on an enterprise application where you have so much code, right? I mean, in our case, for example, our own monorepo has 700K lines of code. Yeah, that's big, pretty big. And we have hundreds of different projects, including libraries and apps. So we don't build everything again and again. We just build what is needed to run that particular project. For example, if we have 25 to close to 25 apps. So if one app is using just 10 libraries, I don't have to go ahead and build everything like all the 100 projects again and again and again, because NX knows that what is dependent on what. So if you saw the example, right? I mean, we just made some changes to orders, and then the app was also rebuilt because, of course, it knows the dependency. Home is actually not being used anywhere. So when we change something to home, my application was not rebuilt because NX knows, okay, it is not actually dependent. But how NX knows? So good question, right? I mean, how it knows? So this is where the NX graph comes in the picture. So if you see this, I mean, there is also in generate and run. I think it should be NX. Yep, here it is. So you can actually also run uh, affected graph, or you can just run the graph command. So npx nx graph. Let's run this command, and then we'll go to affected graph. So here, yeah, let me zoom in. So this is the portal which comes up once you run the nx graph command. And here you can click on show all projects, and you can see the dependencies. So you can see home is actually not dependent on anything. E2E is actually explicitly dependent on the main app, because of course end-to-end test has to actually uh, take the code from app, right? So the end-to-end test can run. And here it says there is a dependency on orders, and by dotted line means it's lazy loaded. So if you see the straight lines, it means it has a direct dependency. It is directly using some code. If it is dotted lines, it means there is a lazy loaded code which is being called here. So you can see where, and it also shows you that where actually this dependency is in which file. Here it shows that this orders is actually available into approute.ts. So in case you have multiple files, you can always go ahead and select the two projects and see what are the files which makes them dependent on each other. NX Graph is the best thing which is available in NX, and it is free. So you don't have to pay anything to use it. It saves a lot of time to figure out in case, let's say, if you have a new project, you join a new team, and you want to see like how the project is dependent on each other. You can just run NX Graph and see the entire dependency on the board. And you can also select two projects, and you can also see the files like how they are dependent on each other. This also helps you during the optimization. So let's say if you're doing some optimization and you want to reduce the dependency, you can also see like which files are there. So of course you can move the code around into different libraries maybe, and make them independent of each other. Other advantage is circular dependencies. So in case you have a circular dependency, it becomes very easy to identify, because in case of circular dependency, it will be like coming from, let's say, Santosh workspace to orders, and orders to Santosh workspace. So you know that, okay, there is something wrong. There is a circular dependency, and you can also hover and see which file. But I mean, we will talk more about like NX workspaces in future. We'll also see how we can actually stop it before it happens. But yeah, this is to just give you an idea. Like this is how NX graph looks like. And let me just open it again. I mean, I don't have to run the affected one, but here you can also see the tasks. So you can click on show all tasks, and you can see how they are actually dependent on each other. It says that if I build my workspace, it also builds the orders. So that's how NX knows that, okay, if I make some changes to orders, I have to go ahead and build the workspace as well. What more is like, of course, you can see different tasks. Like you can select different tasks and see how they are dependent on each other. If I run lint, I mean, they are individual, so they will not impact any other application. But you can also see that what tasks are actually affected by this change. So here you also have something known as affected graph. So you can see like, yeah, which projects will be affected by this change, which tasks will be affected by this change. And let's run it again, and we have this one which shows me affected projects. So you can see this is actually highlighted, show affected projects, and we can click on show all projects. So by this if I raise the PR or if I run affected build, it all these projects will be rebuilt again. If I had made no changes to home, it will only show this three. So it will say, okay, E2E will be affected, workspace will be affected, and orders will be affected. It will not show this. And similar to that, you can actually select build and no, so it only shows projects. So show affected projects. I mean, if you know which projects are affected, of course you know the tasks, because with every task, every project, there are minimum 3 to 4 tasks: build, lint, end to end, and test. So these are 4 tasks probably you will run with every project. So let's close this and close this terminal. But we know now like how NX behaves on my local machine. I mean, all this caching which will be available. But what about cloud? So this is where NX Cloud comes handy. NX Cloud is a paid project or paid product which is available, but it's also free in case you are running an open source project. You just have to contact the NX team and they can onboard you. NX loves open source. I mean, NX is itself an open source project, so they love to support other open source projects, and you can contact them if you need the subscription, and you can actually do it from NX console. So you can click on setup NX cloud. But before that, what I will do is I will commit these files and get commit, add orders library, and let's set up NX cloud for us. So it says that connecting to NX Cloud. So NX Cloud, as I said, it's a paid project, paid product, and you can actually activate it by going to nx.app manually, or just click on setup NX Cloud here, or you can just say npx NX Cloud, and it will also like give you some commands. I mean, it will just run some automations and update some files. Here actually it is just running the same commands for us. So you can see there are few files which are being updated. So one of them is package.json. So what's added here? So NX Cloud, which is the package which is responsible for orchestrating. I mean, I just these words are like really heavy in case you're not a native speaker for sure. So orchestrating the all this changes, right? I mean, in case some and with NX Cloud you get more features. So we'll talk about those features, but yeah, this package is responsible for everything. And once the other thing which happens is it actually adds an access token to your nx.json file, and it also changes your runner to NX Cloud, because now onwards, once you activate NX Cloud, this behavior is going to like give you more and more advantages. It's not only on local what we have seen, but it's cloud now. So I'll talk about it, but let's set up the NX Cloud first. And so this is it. So once you run the like once you set up the NX Cloud, this three things will happen. Of course, if you have a log file, that will be updated. NX Cloud will be added as a dependency, and nx.json, you will have an access token available here. And this access token is something which we will use to activate the NX Cloud, because once you get this you get this token, you have to actually go ahead and claim it. And how we can do that? So let's go ahead and do it. So you can go to nx.app. Right. So I already have an account. I'll just log in from GitHub. Sorry, I'll just sign in, and I will use continue with GitHub. And let's see. So I'll create a new organization, or should I? I already have an organization here, and I'll click on connect new workspace. So it says connect to NX Cloud. I can just copy this command, and this will actually open the same portal where I can actually enter the token. So, hmm. So what it says, if you're not done so already, let's see what we have to do. So this workspace is already connected to NX Cloud. So this means your workspace can use computation caching, distributed task execution, show you run analytics. We will talk about all this, of course. And then if you do not have done already, please claim this workspace. So I want to actually claim this. So I'll just go ahead and say, click on this link, say open. I can also directly connect my, okay, connect to new workspace, connect. I can also do it from GitHub, but it's okay. If you see, there is an option to connect, if I'm not wrong. It's okay. So yeah, so this is it. I mean, I'm connected, and right now, of course, there's no new commit which Annex has found, so it's okay. But what I can do is now I can run the affected again, and we can see some data being sent on the NX Cloud. Let's go back to NX console, run the affected, and let's run the build, and let's see. So now as we are connected on NX Cloud, we will see some data being sent on NX Cloud, and it will be able to show it on the dashboard. And now you can see something has changed, right? I mean, it says like running tasks in parallel. Why it is running tasks in parallel? Because it is using NX Cloud now, and it can run your builds parallelly. And it will also upload this data on NX Cloud. And after doing this, we will get something known as distributed caching, which is also available once we enable once we add the NX Cloud. What is distributed caching? Let's talk about it once this build is completed. Meanwhile, let's see if there is something which is available. Awesome. So we can see there is one run today, and we can click on show all runs, and it will tell you that, okay, what has happened. So it says, okay, you actually executed a command called nx affected target build. What happened? How many seconds? What was taken by which project? So it says, okay, orders took 15, home took 14, and the main application took 39 seconds. And it also tells you if there was a remote cache hit or a local cache hit or a cache miss. So you can select appropriate column to figure out if there was a cache hit or there was a cache miss. So this is something which you can also use to optimize your builds further. So if you see, there are some projects for which you made a small change, but it is building everything. You can also go ahead and check what is wrong with this. Why actually not everything was taken from the cache, but what, like, everything is being built. In those cases, the culprit is some library, like the some library which is like affecting everything. So great. So we now have seen the NX in action. Let's run the affected again. So I'm running the target equals to build. And let's see what happens in this case. So again, it says, okay, defaulted to base main, but now everything actually came from the cache, but actually it came from the global cache. So here we can actually go ahead and say see all runs. Now you can see there are two runs, and the second run, which we just executed, took less than a second because everything was taken from the cache. But what is extra here, or what is important to understand here, is this cache is actually available for everyone within your team. So if you have hundreds of developer, and let's say they are working on some project, and somehow they make changes to, let's say, home, or they make changes to, let's say, workspace, main workspace, like and if you make some changes to main workspace, it means it has to rebuild all the dependencies, which also includes the orders library. But in that case, orders is not changed. So what will happen is the orders build will be actually taken from the cache for everyone. So they don't have to build the same code again and again, even though they even if they have not changed it. Sorry, if they have not changed it. This is where NX Cloud really shines. So you remember this concept, right? Right. So when once you work with NX, the main motto is you should not rebuild the same code twice. And this is something which you get by default for free on your local. You don't have to do anything. NX takes care of it for your local machine or for your local development. But once it goes to the CI, like, of course, at the end, you will push your code somewhere, right? GitHub, GitLab, or any other pipeline. In that case, what is happening is, in that case, also, no one will rebuild the same code again. Not even your CI pipeline, not even the developers, like other 100 developers who are working on the same project. So this is the advantage of using an xCloud, and this is what distributed caching is. So once there is a cache which is available on the CI pipeline, it will be distributed for each and every developer who works in on your project. But remember, there is some cost. There is some cost which is associated with it, and for enterprise project, it is like 300 CI runs for free, and then of course you can choose. You can actually see it here, enterprise pricing. For open source, as I said, free. For your most of the enterprises, up to of course up to 300 CI pipelines, the executions per month is free. And then pro license, you can you can pay 249 per month, or if you have like a big enterprise, thousands of developers, you have to actually go ahead and check with them the pricing. But yeah, I mean, you can try it for your side project, right? You don't have to pay anything. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm not paying anything to use distributed caching. I'm doing it for free because my repository is like available. And even in that case, like if I had a private repository, even in that case, remember 300 crns is free, so I can actually just go ahead and run it for 300 crns, and I don't have to pay anything. You can also like add some budget, like if you can add your credit card and say, hey, if this goes like, let's say, up to $500 per month, just stop using NSCloud, so you don't use it anymore. So this is one advantage, distributed caching, right? So you have distributed cache, but there is more which comes with NSCloud. If you remember the command which or the lines which came after we set up the NSCloud, there was something called uh, distributed caching and DTE, distributed task execution. So that's very interesting, distributed task execution. So remember, once you run your CI pipeline, right, it runs somewhere. It's just not your machine, right? In case you run it on a CI, you're using GitHub or GitLab, it runs on someone's machine. And once those build, or let's say you run test, build, lint, all those tasks, it takes some memory. It takes some CPU. So the thing is, once you use someone else's machine, you pay on how much CPU you are using. So if I'm using like 16 core machine, I'll pay more. If I'm using 4 core machine, I'll pay less. But it is hard to decide like which how much core I need. This is where distributed task execution really shines. So it will allocate the machines automatically based on how much memory or how much CPU is needed for that particular PR, and it will auto adjust. So minimum you can define, let's say, if I define minimum 3, and then uh, my my PR just need two machines, so it will just execute my build on 2 machines, and it will just save for the third one. If I want to increase, I can just go to 10. And if NX says, okay, I don't need 10 machines, or I don't need to execute this on 10 different machines, I can just do it on 2. You don't have to pay for 8 machines. So this is like you can distribute your task, but you're also saving your cost, because in this case, NX knows how much core or how much CPU you need, and then distributes your tasks accordingly. You don't have to do anything. But to configure distributed task execution, you have to add something. You have to add, of course, something on your pipeline. So to do that, let's add the GitHub action and see see it in action, right? Because of course, until you don't see, don't believe. So that's and to do that, I think I already have one GitHub repository where I have GitHub action for distributed task execution, and I'll just go ahead and grab the same. Your repository. Let me figure out conference demo. I think this was the one. And GitHub workflow build.yaml. This is not the one, but there should be some PR. Add default, add home library. Okay, because I have a PR feature tried and this is how my build.yaml looks like. So let's grab the same and let's see view file. So NX Cloud has already like created a new, its own GitHub action. So this is the GitHub action which is created by NX Cloud. And let's go ahead and run or just add this one here. So to run or to add a GitHub action, you have to create a folder called GitHub. So let's do that. And then you have workflows. And then you can add your YAML files. So I'll just call it as the same file, build.yaml. I hope it's YAML, not YAML. No, it's okay. And here, what I'm doing is I'm using the GitHub action, which is available by NX. And it says, okay, NX Cloud Distributed Execution true. So I'm enabling the distributed execution. This is something which is available in docs. So you don't have to follow what I'm doing. You can always refer to the docs, how to enable distributed caching. Just in case something changes, right? I mean, I always focus more on using the docs rather than what I'm doing, because what I'm doing can become old like after a few months, right? But the docs will be always up to date because open source projects really care about documentation. So here, what I'm doing is I'm running lint. I'll remove this. For example, I'll just run the build right now and parallel commands. So you can define what should run as parallel and what should run as parallel on agents. So I'll just say, hey, run the affected build. Just don't care about anything else because, or just keep the lint. So lint test, because I'm sure my test will fail. Even my linter will fail because we haven't updated anything. So parallel 3 configuration CI parallel build. Okay. Cloud record format check. I think this will also fail, but let's see. I mean, I can fix that. You can run npx format. This command will actually format all the files using Prettier in case you have any formatting errors. So, okay, there are many files which is not formatted properly. So it will just format. I can also pass hyphen all command, because once you run format, remember, just also I'll talk about a little bit about formatting. So as NX uses Prettier for formatting all the files, but there is possibility that you pushed like few older files which was not formatted using Prettier. So in that case, you can also run with hyphen all command. So it will format the entire workspace. By default, it will just format the uncommitted files. That what happens once you run NX format. It will only format the uncommitted files, which is not committed so far. So okay, so I have fixed my formatting. Let's see. I mean, should we do for linting? Let's do that. I mean, I don't want like my CI runs to West, because anyways I'm using it for free, but at least I'm using someone's machine, right? And we should not abuse it. So let's run the yarn nx. I'll just show you another command, because if I run affected, it will run everything, but In case, let's say you have many projects and you have never run linter before, you're doing it for the first time, you took a new code base, you're setting up linter and everything, which was not available earlier. So you can also do this. You can run many. So this is another command, and you can say -f target equals to lint, and I will pass a flag called -f fix, which will auto fix the linter issues in case there is a fixer available. So uh, most of the linting rules have a fixer. So always pass -f fix, and I will pass -f quiet to not show me any warnings. So quiet will make sure that all the warnings is removed from the console, and it will only show errors. Very useful in case you have hundreds of projects and you want to figure out like what is the actual error rather than seeing thousands of lines of warnings. And you can also enable it on your CI. So if you don't want to see all the warnings, you can just see the errors, and you don't care about errors warnings anymore. Because if your linter has some warnings, it means you already figured out that what works best for you, and you don't care about those warnings anymore. Okay, cool. My linter is perfect. My formatter is perfect. It means my build will run because this too will succeed. And what we want to do is we want to see distributed task execution. So I'll just push or commit this and run and open a PR, sorry. And let's say git commit, add nx cloud, run lint and formatter. And let's push this. So I'll just go ahead and push and create a pull request. Let's click on this link. And if you are not aware, VS Code has this new functionality where you can actually open a PR from VS Code itself. You don't have to leave this VS Code window. You can just install, I think, GitHub extension, and then you get this inside your VS Code. It's very useful because I have this habit. I'm not sure about others, but I have this habit that I get lost once I open a browser. So after 30 minutes, I realized that I came on this browser or on this tab to open a PR. So if you're like me, which who gets disturbed a lot, use this extension so you never leave this window and you are never lost on that what you can say browsing hell, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, let's see. So you can actually say, okay, if you want to create it as a draft, I don't want to create it as a draft. I want to open this PR. And now you have open PR. You can click on this pull link, uh, and you will go to this. And remember, now we have we also have added a job. So this job, which is NX Cloud, will run. So first is NX Cloud in it. So it will initialize the agents. And then second job is actually this one, which is running right now, which is running with three agents right now. And we can see all this into our NX Cloud portal. So here we can click on see all runs, right? And let's see, let it complete. So you can see on details, it's still running. And it's actually doing a lot of things behind the scenes. It is actually using a package manager. It's a package manager, yeah. Volta CLI. It is to figure out which package manager you are using. Either you are using npm, pnpm. If you are using pnpm, that's also handled here. We are using npm, so it goes to the other tasks. And now actually you can see the build is actually running on 3 agents, and we will be able to see all this. It's done, right? So your execution is done. Let's go back to NX Cloud. Let's refresh. And you can see you have branch number 3, the PR number 3, and the different tasks which has been executed here. So it says, hey, you gave me 3 parallel agents, but actually I just needed 2. So even in that case, the first agent was used 54%, second agent was used 19%. It means if I only had one agent, that would have been sufficient. So this is how you can actually figure out how many agents you are going to need. By default, configure three once you are actually just starting a project. Try with three. I mean, see if you need more agents or you need less agents. So here, but let's talk about distributed task execution, right? What is distributed task execution? So generally, I'll go back to another run, like the previous run, without this. Yeah, let's see this one. And here, hmm. So here, what happens in this case, not this one, because it was actually derived from the cache, where there was some build. This one, this looks good to me. Yeah. So what happens in this case is actually all this task is actually going to run one after another. So that's how by default anything will run on the CI, right? But once you do parallel or distributed task execution, which is enabled by adding that GitHub action, which I had shown you, your tasks are actually distributed. So you can see here, first was format check, which went for 2 seconds. And before it completes, there was two other tasks which were executed parallelly to each other. So you can see the lint and build, actually they started at the same time, because NX knows that build and lint has no dependency. I can run this in parallel and I don't have to worry about each other's output. If this was test, it may take some time because tests are actually dependent on build. Same for end to end. End to end is also actually dependent on the build because it will take the output of build and then run the end to end test. So in that case, you may see some difference. I mean, the end to end test may start later, but as soon as, let's say you have 25 projects, as soon as first project completes, immediately NX can actually go ahead and run the end to end test for that particular project. So it's like they don't have to wait for entire 25 projects to complete, and this can happen in parallel, saving you tons of time. I mean, if this runs sequentially, so 10 seconds, 6 second, and 2 second, I mean, this is not much, this is a small project, but even like in that case, close to 19 or 20 seconds, right? So here you can see by running this tasks or distributing these tasks on different machines, you are, or different agents, not machines, but let's say different agents, you're saving 50% of your time. So by just actually distributing your tasks. In case you have an enterprise project which has a lot of project, I mean, just think about the number of minutes or hours you are going to save, and the real time data. I mean, people have just saved like even years worth of computational time, because if I don't distribute this task, this is going to run sequentially, and it is going to take more CPUs and more runtime, and it will like run your machine for longer period of time, so you pay more money. And yeah, so that's what you do. You can reduce this time by actually increasing the number of cores. For example, if you want to just have only one agent, you can have 16 core machine or 32 core machine, but you pay more. And you don't know, you never know that if you are actually utilizing your 100% of CPUs. No idea. But here NX does all this for you. So let's go back, and you can see one more thing. You can also see time saved. So of course now I don't have enough data so that it cannot calculate, but once you have enough data, NX can also tell you how much time you have saved. And like you can take, I mean, because if you're paying for something, you need some data to quantify that investment, right? And this is how you can quantify. Let's say you run your NX cloud for a week, and then you go to time saved and see, okay, if the amount of money I'm paying to save my computation time, is it worth it? So of course, go ahead and verify the data and see if it is worth it. I'm sure it will be, but yeah, just in case you are running an enterprise application and you want to figure out which is costing less, whether it's GitHub Actions. Of course, you have to use GitHub Actions, but let's say without NX Cloud, how much you are paying, and then with NX Cloud, how much you are paying. And you can take the difference, right? You can take the difference and go to the sales team and or any other team which is responsible for all this budget and convince them to use NX Cloud. So this is what was this is what distributed task execution is. We also talked about distributed caching, and we also saw how actually even without NX, how you can utilize NX locally. Take your all the builds from cache, and it will only build only which needs to be built. So NX knows that. But how NX knows that? Like we saw NX graph, right? But how NX graph is being created? So NX has something called NX daemon. NX daemon is you can say a background task. So this is a little bit theory because of course, in case someone asks you, right? I mean, how okay, NX works. I mean, yeah, it actually it tells you that okay, only this is changed, but how that is changed. So NX daemon, which runs in the background, it actually keeps an watch on your workspace. So it keeps an watch, and it calculates the hash of every project, or it's file based. If it's per file, I think. So it calculates the hash and it compares the previous hash with the new hash. If there is any change, it means there is something which is affected. If there is no change, nothing has changed, nothing gets affected. But if you think it and you may actually have this question, hey, this runs in the background, doesn't it have any performance impact? So NX daemon is really fast, you don't have to worry about it. And by using that NX graph, actually it generates the NX graph which we see, right? Which we just saw. By using NX graph, you can actually take the NX graph output into a file as well, and you can that file is actually, you can generate that file and keep it anywhere and see the entire dependency. Just in case you want to actually use it for different purposes, it can generate the NX graph file on your local, maybe for whatever reason you may need it. But let's see, I think I can show you expected graph, and let's see if what are the different options. So I can say NX graph hyphen help to see all the options. So mm, options change the way NX calculator affected command. No. Graph base files target focus exclude open. Here, so you can see file output.json, save the project graph of the workspace in a JSON file. So you can pass hyphen file option with a path of a JSON file. I mean, wherever you want to create this file, and it will output everything into this output.json. So we can also see this like hyphen file is equals to output.json, because in some cases it comes really handy to revisit the JSON file and see the dependencies. So you can see, okay, it will have the entire dependency here. You can also see the files which is dependent. So here, so this is tasks, this is orders, home, dependencies. So you can see Santosh workspace is actually dependent on orders, and the type is dynamic because I'm using lazy loading to do this. There is no dependency on home. There is no dependency on orders. They don't. They are not dependent on any other library apart from being used here. So this is how your this graph looks like. I mean, you can also see this just in case you want to figure out, okay, what project is dependent on what. But just run the graph, and this is something which you can use for maybe some kind of analysis. And I think this is enough for the day. So we actually started with just creating a library. Then we saw how NX works locally, how you can just run NX affected to see or to run just what is affected rather than building everything in your workspace. Then we added NX Cloud to our project. We saw distributed caching. We saw distributed task execution. We added the GitHub action, which as mentioned is available in the docs. You don't have to follow the video in case you want to configure it for your project. And remember, the NX Cloud, I mean, even NX, right? NX is independent of the project. I mean, you can add NX to any project. It doesn't have to be just front end. You can actually use NX with uh, maybe sorry .NET. You can use it for Java, anything. So, and in that case, I mean, if you can just add NX to that, you can also use NX Cloud. So it means all this computation distributed caching and distributed task execution can be used irrespective of what kind of project you have. So this is it for the day. I mean, in case you have an open source project, just go ahead and give it a try. And in case you need some more CI time on your open source project, go ahead and contact the NX team. They are really active on Twitter, and you can just chat with them. So that's it for the day. Tomorrow we will continue with what should we do? Yeah, we wanted to add cards. Then we wanted to add to cart functionality. We wanted to have orders page. We wanted to add signals as signals for state management, similar to what we used to do with observables, behavior subject and subject. We can actually now use signals as well. So those are few things which is pending, and then probably we'll wrap up this Angular stream and we'll start a new stream. I'm just thinking about whether should I do analog, or I wanted to learn few more things quick. Next.js. So not Next.js, next. That's confusing, right? There are three: next. So yeah, Nest framework, right? So I wanted to do Nest to create our backend or to write our API. So I'll figure it out. But yeah, that's for future. So thank you again for joining. I think that this stream went really smooth because there was no hiccups. Everything worked smoothly. Even the NX, connecting to NX Cloud and using NX Cloud and seeing our data on NX app, everything was smooth. So see you tomorrow, same time, 10 p.m. CT. Bye bye.